sorry to do this to you and take away from the episode, but let's just take a quick pause so that I can ask you one question. Where do you need help improving your photography practice? Do you need help crafting better emails? Do you need help telling a better story with your images? I don't know, maybe it's something entirely different. Aaron and I are offering free, one-time only 30-minute one-on-one video sessions to help you with your specific photography and creative goals. We say this all the time on the show. We're not gurus and we're constantly learning ourselves. However, we do have experience and a track record of figuring things out in this industry, and we're confident that we can help you fast track your learning. So if you're benefiting from the general concepts of these episodes, but you want advice and guidance specifically tailored to your unique needs, you can click the link in the episode description to book a one-on-one, one-time 30-minute virtual session entirely for free. Zero cost, you book it at your convenience, and you get 30 minutes of either mine or Aaron's uninterrupted time. You can use the code FREETRIAL, that's FREETRIAL spelled FREETRIAL, at checkout, and now we can get back to today's episode. This is the Photographer Mindset Podcast. I'm half the co-host team. Is that Macy?
I'm the other half, Aaron Manis.
We blend photography, we blend mindset. It's in the title. It's in the title, guys.
Just read the title.
You know that. We're two photographers. We take concepts from our photography life, whether that's income related or passion projects. And we're also students of mindset principles, growth mindset. We like to read a lot. We like to learn, both of us. I'll speak for both of us. And we like to apply those concepts of mindfulness outside of our photography practice, bring them into our photography practice, and watch it improve our craft. I think that's the gist of the show. And today we're going to talk about licensing. I think we're going to get more into it. This is something we've been doing for the last 2 years, maybe. And we figured it would be nice to do an episode for beginners, intermediates, some advice that we would like to have given to ourselves 2 years ago of why you need to license. That needs to be your pricing model. That needs to be the structure. It'll save you so much headache, so much regret, perhaps, when you feel you've done work and you're like, oh my God, I sold the farm. I'm so stupid, hitting yourself in the head, because I've had those moments where you're like, oh man, I should have charged way more. And I think we're going to get into the nuances and help you understand, if you don't already, the major difference between, hey, I'm charging for my time to be here and to click the shutter and to film and for my expertise on set. And then you are also charging for the value after the fact that your assets provide for who you've performed the work for, because those are, whether your video or photo assets are or are not directly used for sponsored posts, like even a friendly organic post on social media used by a company you work for could potentially generate thousands of dollars in business. And we need to be compensated for that. So we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to speak to our former selves, because maybe many of you listening, are at that stage that we were at. So that, I feel like, would be very useful for today. But before we start, I want to show you my calendar. It came in. You want to see it?
Yeah.
You don't get to see the whole thing, though, because it'll take too long. But you get to see the cover.
Bears.
Yeah, bears. An excuse for people to go subscribe on YouTube. Go see my calendar. You like it?
Yeah, man, that's cool. I like the cut of it. It's very long. It's
pretty cool, eh?
Yeah. So can we flip to 1 month? I want to see
random month.
My birthday month, December, the last.
No,
photo.
I don't want to do December. Actually, we'll do December. We'll do December, which is your birthday month, and we'll do June, which is mine. But I got to move the mic for a sec. All right.
I'll commentate. He's flipping through.
This is December.
It's a very long calendar versus a typical square it's double. It's like it's already folded for you.
Yeah, it's nice. But look, this is from our time in Alaska, the TPM 2024 retreat.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's kind of reflective, but that bear, remember that one standing on its haunches, hind legs?
Yep. Beautiful.
Very nice. I'd love to do an episode on how to print a calendar, but it seems like kind of too nuanced to do a whole hour or so about. So if you have questions on how to do a calendar, write to me. Aaron, have you done one before?
No, I never have.
Don't write to Aaron. He has no idea what he's doing.
No, I don't.
Write to me. But to other themes on the podcast, it's a great way to print your work and friends and family will support your work, and you can even list it on your website if you can figure out your shipping costs. All right, brown bear for December. June. Come on. I bet you I did polar bear for June because
I don't do calendars because I don't believe in time. It's a
it's
man-made
true.
structure.
It's the fourth dimension. It's an illusion.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was right. Polar bear trudging along the
That's cool.
flats of Manitoba.
Oh, it's very pretty.
Neat, huh?
Yeah.
My time spent in Manitoba. I love doing calendars, man. It's a way to print your work in mass, and it's affordable. It's like similar to doing a little gallery, and then I get to hand deliver them to people. I don't put them on my website typically because I don't want to deal with like shipping individually. I just print enough. I do a pre-sale, get my numbers. This is what it costs. And then I order the exact amount. I have no inventory left over. And then I charge a little bit more. I charge $45 Canadian, but the paper is so nice that people can cut the photos out after. It's 8x10. So it's a common frame size. Yeah. So people could potentially be getting like 3 prints. So it's a good deal, in my opinion. Anyways, on to today's episode.
I'm interested. I'd like to do one.
You should. What do you wish you knew, first and foremost? Looking back, you're speaking to 2 years ago, Aaron. Because obviously now you're charging for... Sorry, let me put this calendar down. You're charging exclusively... Your fee structure is with licensing. What does that mean? What does that mean, first of all?
Well, it allows... It's a license to use. If you think of any sort of license, it's an allowance to use a motor vehicle, a firearm, fishing in the right season. So it's a license to use your work. I think what's interesting about it, a lot of people might think as they're turning over work, they're turning over ownership. And that kind of protects the ownership of your work. Your work always remains your work unless you turn that aspect over to it, but you're licensing someone to use your work for usually a set amount of time and a set amount of ways. So in those two aspects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important before we even go any further, that you own your work. There's this common misconception. I wish that I more clearly communicated this to clients in my early days, that a lot of the time they're under the assumption that when they got photos or videos, I was only doing photos back then, photos delivered to them, that it was now their property, which is not the case. They're borrowing your property. Right. And what I also wish I did, and we're going to get into this, is telling them how they are allowed to use your property to generate business in a way that is fair for all of us. So continue.
Yeah, and I think it's a way to tell them how to not use your property in a way that's not fair as well. I think, first of all, there's a million different ways you can license work in terms of terms, in terms of usage, in terms of contractual stuff. It's just an area where you can really protect what is going on with your work in terms of even down to editing or changing colors or cropping, or is that allowed? Is that not allowed? What are you allowing with your work? I think that's the simplest way to say it. What are you allowing with your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I feel beginner, maybe some intermediate photographers are getting wrong, and I did this for so long, was charging for the time that it took me to be on set, pre-production, editing, and then handing the deliverables over. So I was charging for my time. Most people are like, okay, that makes sense. But you also need to charge so you're charging for your time on set in the field, doing all that stuff that you have built the skill set at, as you rightfully should. The license comes in after the fact, where it's like, okay, here's the bill for my time. Here's the fee to license and do what you want to do with it commercially so that you can generate more revenue. I need to be paid a licensing fee that's fair because you're going to make thousands. This is arbitrary based on the size of the company. It could be tens of thousands, could be hundreds of thousands off of these images that I've created. And I need to be paid for more than just my time. That's what I really needed to understand. And that's when I had those moments of like, stupid, stupid, stupid. These are going to be running as ads. They're going to
Yeah.
sell 100 jackets at $300 a jacket. And that's,
Mhm.
that's a ton of money. And I've only paid for my time. Silly, 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 silly. So we got to get this out of our heads that we're only billing for our time. We need to bill for our time, and we need to bill for the license to essentially generate tons of money off of our work. And I'm not suggesting that they need to be two separate like bills or broken down as two different line items. You can obviously bake that into one invoice, but you need to consider this with your price.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of just spell it out. I think there's a lot of ways to unpack this and feel comfortable with it, but there are just those two aspects of it. And I kind of think of company like a client versus doing work for a neighbor. A neighbor just asked me to take headshots for her business.
Right.
Uh, I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, we're going to license these headshots for 3 years. And no, it's just like, it took me an hour. Like, you know, whatever you want to throw me, honestly, like that's cool. I'm not going to do that. But if I'm doing the same headshots for someone that is selling those modeling shots or what have you, if there's clothing involved or what, and it's a big company and they're going to be using these to run ads and try to sell this exact shirt,
Or like a lawyer that's going to be on a billboard on the highway.
yeah,
Right.
garnishing clients from it, those kinds of things. So that's when it becomes like, okay, well, if you're going to use my work, if you're entrusting me to do the work and do it well, and you're agreeing that this work is going to get you business, there's a part of that. There's a licensing fee. You don't just get to use that forever. Let's make a deal that makes it seem fair. The trickiest part is it's really hard to understand how much return on investment any given entity is going to be getting.
Yeah. Educating
And
guests to an extent, and what you're satisfied with personally, right?
yeah, satisfied with personally. But trying your best to understand. And Seth and I do some simple math sometimes, like, okay, the product costs $1,000 a piece. Like, this is a product that probably sells a lot. Let's just estimate that.
Yeah, well, let's run with that. So let's say the product costs $1,000, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And in your licensing agreement, you've said that they're allowed to use them as sponsored Instagram ads. Let's say they're
Mhm.
photos, okay? They're really
Mhm.
good photos, and they're confident that it's going to generate them business. They need to generate 5 sales. Think about it this way. They need to generate only 5 sales from their marketing campaign using those photos as an Instagram sponsored post. The annoying things we get in our stories or in our feed.
Mhm.
To break even.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything beyond that is profit for them. And this concept should really help you not be shy and passive with what you charge. Because that sometimes can happen. It's like, oh, I'm gonna come in low so that I get the job. So that I don't get a no.
Yeah.
And then often what happens is I feel like with bigger companies, this is the marketing person on the other end knows this is coming because they've dealt with licensing before and they're professional. I think where you get shock value from the recipient
Mhm.
is when you're dealing with maybe a smaller company or a newer company that hasn't dealt in the licensing arena before. So where I'm going with this is you have to help them understand the concept that I just explained. And I'm going to ask you, Aaron,
Mhm.
how do you like to help people who aren't photographers or in the creative space who have had that sticker shock value when you send them your price? How do you help them understand that? Because that's really the sticking point a lot of the time, especially if
Yeah.
we're new photographers listening. We're not dealing with giant companies just yet. It might be smaller ones, and we need to have them understand, like, hey, you're going to generate a lot of money off these if you believe in them.
Yeah, there's a balance here and there's a dance. And get someone that you can mentor with or look up to, or someone that knows or been around the block a little bit, even a little bit.
Free 30-minute session. One time only. One-on-ones, we do those. There's
We
the
do them
plug
with
right there.
we do them with each other.
We do
So
them with each other as well. But if you're listening,
yeah,
take
if you're
that.
listening, absolutely. And what we do though is we kind of go over the case study. Here's the company. Here's what I know about it. Here's what they're selling. Here's what each spot costs that they're going to be selling. Here's how many photographs they want. Here's how long it's going to take me.
There's
Here's
a
all my
percentage of
bottom line.
marketing budget typically too.
Yeah.
Which
So
is usually, what do you think? 5%, 10% of revenue?
I think I mean, doing some homework for this episode, I read 3 to 12%, depending on,
Is the percentage of revenue
yeah,
that
you should
goes to the
try to
marketing
get.
budget, the advertising budget.
Yeah. Well,
So there's something to
companies are usually,
consider.
it should be, if they're trying to grow, it should be 10 to 20%. But in terms of licensing fee and return on investment and paying the photographer for their work, should be upwards of 12%. If you think about that, that could be a giant amount of money, depending on what they're selling.
Yeah, and especially back to our example, right? If it was $1,000 product and you charge $12,000 for a license to use these photos for commercial sponsored purposes on social media for an unlimited amount of time. We'll get to that. We talked about timeframes, but for an unlimited amount of time, they get to use these photos commercially for sponsored posts forever. You're charging $12,000. Their product is $1,000. Let's say cost is half. So they need to sell 24 products over the lifetime of the business with these images to break even, right? Because I'm saying maybe profit margin is 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that outrageous, especially if there's a huge budget for the advertisement that they're putting behind your work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the point here is like you can start to realize, okay, they charge this much. You can make some educated guesses and then see what is reasonable, and you can come up with a number that is satisfying for you and that isn't just being paid for your time, because that's ridiculous. I'm going to go back in time and slap myself in the face because that's not the way to do it. I wish I knew a lot sooner. And that's why you're here listening to this podcast, to not make the same mistakes and to accelerate your learning. If you're interested in income at all, maybe this episode isn't for you. But if you are, you've been making a little bit of passive income, this is important, very important.
And I think as you're pricing out, you do a lot of research. You ask a lot of questions in your phone calls. It's not just about you. It's like find out as much as you possibly can about how they're using these images or video.
Give me some questions.
Where are you using these? Is it just for social media? Is it going to be in magazine ads? Is it going to be on a billboard? Is it going to be on a subway? Is it going to be at Shea Stadium or City Field? I should say. I'm dating myself. Is it going to be on your website? Is it going to be the cover of your Amazon photos? Is it going to be spammed on Instagram Marketplace? Is it in TikTok shows or shop? Just knowing as much as you possibly can. Are you going to be sponsoring these photos? Are you going to be putting money behind them? Are you going to be paying for an advertising spot in them? Are they going to be back cover of Time magazine? Where are they going to be? I would like to know that, because that gives me an idea. All right, then what's Time magazine's readership? Okay, each magazine goes out to 1 million subscribers. I'm just making numbers up here, but 1 million numbers are going to see the back cover, give or take. Does it hit everyone? Even if it hits 1% of people that look into it, okay, what's that mean? And you just kind of go from there. And from that 1%, they sell 10% because they already looked into it. These are all kind of arbitrary, but it puts you in a ballpark of, hey, if my job does what it's supposed to do, which is sell this product, what's going to be the stretch, the reach of this product, of this advertisement, of the company's position in terms of using these pictures for their own benefit. And from there, I do want to keep jobs. You're right. So there's a balance there, but there is a sort of, hey, if they sold, maybe it's a bigger product, $1,000 thing, whatever that may be, a really nice hard drive. If they sold 10 of these with this big push that they're going to put behind my photos, I'd I'd be very comfortable saying, well, I want at least the price of one. I want $1,000 for them to be able to do this to sell 10. If it's just 10. But now if I feel like they're pushing this really wide stream and it's going to be 100 to 500 units. I'm saying, well, what's the price of 10 of them? 10 to 50. Like what's that region? All right, 50 asking for $5,000 or $50,000 or whatever it may be. That doesn't seem right, even though it might be. It doesn't like I'm okay not going there right now, but I would like some sort of kickback for not just the work, like you said, but the fact that they're using this to garnish tons of profit. And it's not a lot. It's like in the 10% range, but that's where you have to kind of juggle and balance and feel it out and get as much info as possible and talk to people and get other examples and look up other photography contracts so you can feel a little bit more comfortable because those numbers can be very big. I really recommend listening to the Adam Capola
Yes.
episode. I think he mentions it on there. He might have mentioned it off air. But just as like there was one photo for a client and it wasn't a huge client. It was, I think, a winery or a restaurant, and they wanted a shot as their hero shot, and they licensed it again for a few more years for $10,000.
Yeah.
That's one photo, and that's a like
And they
local winery.
relicensed it because they the photo was a proof of concept. It had done so well for them.
Right.
And I think this speaks to the idea of duration. How long are you going to license an image for? Because the shorter you license it for, essentially the lower your price can be. Right? If to use your example, what was your example? Hard drives
Yeah.
for $1,000. If they can sell 10, okay, well, it's realistic that they can sell 10 within a year. Okay, is it realistic that they can sell 500 within a year with your photos for their advertising budget? Maybe not. So if they can sell 10 within a year, let's charge that. I think your arbitrary number was $1,000. Okay, I can do $1,000, but you license them for a year. So in a year, we'll come back and we'll renegotiate if you want to license these or not. And let's say they sold 30. They're going to relicense those.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can renegotiate. Okay, well, like, I'm sure they're not going to tell you we sold 30, but you could always ask some,
Yeah.
If they're coming back to you, it's obvious that it was a success. And then now you can either up the duration. I mean, I'm not speaking from experience in the sense where I've had a renewal because I'm so new to licensing. And I guess it's typically 1, 3, 5 and unlimited. I would like that to happen in the future. But let's say, you wanted to do unlimited. Okay, well, it's now likely that they can do 500. They can sell 500 hard drives if they can use if for the remainder of time. So now what are you going to charge?
Yeah.
I think that's the weighing scale of price versus duration. How many are they likely to sell? What's their return on investment going to be? If anything, I hope this conversation just gets people thinking. And I think ultimately what is important is that whatever you charge or bake into your invoice as your licensing fee, you're ultimately satisfied with it. If everything you allowed them to do with your photos or videos happens and they generate a ton of money, are you going to be satisfied? And the answer is yes, it's the right price. If you're going to be kicking yourself, you're too low.
Right. Here's a little trick and another thing to think about in terms of term. If I think I have some things age themselves out of the equation anyways, like style changes, people's look, apparel changes, things change. So I try to up the labeling of, let's say it's this shirt. Okay. And it's going to be out of style by next year. They're not going to be trying to sell this stuff. So I might try to say, I'm going to give you these photos unlimited to get a little bit more price. I'm going to make it a good price, but I know that them using these photos for life to make tons of income and profits probably not going to happen. So I'm going to try to Just let them use them for as long as they need to use them and try to get the most out of it. The other end of that gamble is if I have a killer shot, like, oh my, this winery had the most insane sunset and it was a crowd and there was people out there. I have the hero shot of a century for them. They're not going to get a better photograph than this. I might license it for 1 year because knowing good luck finding a replacement for that one. You might come back for 10 years in a row and then say like, we love this so much. It got us so much business. What would it take to have this unlimitedly? What would it have it to just be ours? Would
Yeah.
you hand over copyright? Would you let us own this? Oh, now we're really talking some money because now you're admitting what the value is to you. So there is a little business in play here. Ultimately, I like working with companies. I like having a relationship. I like things going well. I like them feeling like they got a deal and I got a deal. So there is that balance of where can we land where no matter what happens, I feel good. And no matter what happens for you, you feel like you got a decent deal too.
Yeah, absolutely. So rewinding a bit, how do you help business owners who are also maybe the marketing person, maybe smaller tiered companies? How do you help them understand this concept? Because this is one of those things where you really get it or you don't, at least in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you get past that friction?
I kind of reverse engineer it in a weird way, and people might be shaking their head or being like, after I explain this, like I don't agree with that, what have you. But I bake the fee in mentally to what I think is most appropriate for the project. So again, with this shirt, I know probably in 1 year, they're not going to really need these photos anymore. So I'm not going to push for unlimited licensing. What I'm going to kind of leverage is the fact that most photographers would really license each and every photo for a certain amount of time. But what I'm going to do is this project for you to use as much as you want, knowing in my mind that the license is built in because it's basically a year or a season for this clothing line. So now it sounds like here's my deal, here's my price. I'm not going to add any more fees, any more licensing, any more. This is what it is. I know your intention to use this heavily for a year. Good. I hope you sell 9 million shirts. I really do. And if you give me this much for that amount of work, I am more than happy and I will move on. So I kind of, in certain cases, build it into the price. And whether I'm acting like I'm doing them a favor by not confusing them with licensing or not has done me well, where at the end of the day, I'm still getting a price where I feel like if it was just charged for the work and then licensing, it would end up to be roughly the same thing.
Yeah, so it's in your overall price, but you're still obviously, of course, letting them know like the terms of the license.
I
You're
also
just not providing two separate. Here's the
yeah,
work fee. Here's the licensing fee. You're just combining them, and it's your price, which is naturally higher.
to be fair, like Toyota hasn't approached me to say we want you to take photos of these, $60,000 Land Cruisers, and we're hoping to sell 1,000 off of your ad campaign. Where I might have to sit down and really even get a lawyer involved at that point, just to make sure that everyone's protected, especially myself. I don't think I would just bake it in at that point, but
Yeah, that's interesting. What if Toyota came to you and said, "Hey, make us a make us a 15-second reel. We'll give you $2,000."
yeah, I wouldn't be thrilled.
I'd probably say no.
I think I would. I would too. I would.
You have to. Because how many
First of all, that's a lot of work if you're going to do a really good job. A 15-second flashy reel with that's travel. That's getting a car.
We get into the whole dichotomy of, but it's going to be on, maybe Toyota collabs with me. Right. And so many people are going to see it. Maybe it's going to bring me more work. Which is hard. I understand that.
That's still a feeling.
Let me ask you this. Why would you say no to $2,000 from Toyota?
Because I've been
real.
Well, I've been in this long enough to know that a 15-second reel with a car company that's going to be interesting is a shit ton of work. It's like that number alone sounds nice, $2,000 for a 15-second reel, but it's like the planning, the execution, the models, the drivers, the weather that needs to cooperate, the different scenery. I would want to do a good job, unless it was like just do a walkthrough of the car for a second. But
okay, let's say that. Let's say the Photographer Mindset podcast hosts are so influential, they just want us in front of a car talking about it. But it's going to go on. They're going to get to use it on Toyota's pages and all that stuff.
Yeah.
$2,000, guys. Yeah. Car is, let's say, new RAV4, 60 grand.
Sick.
I'm still thinking no. I don't know. I'm torn, clearly.
Yeah. But here's the questions. Are they, it's for social medias. It's going to be there in a day and gone. Are they going to promote it? Are they going to keep it around are they going to love us talking about it so much that they're going to just keep playing it? Or is it a 24-hour thing? Boom, gone.
This is where you get into how to get good at structuring deals and negotiating. It's like, okay, so the initial reason I say no is because if this sells a $40,000, let's say this sells for $40,000, $60,000 cars, I just did not make a ton on that. No. I don't think that something is always better than nothing. I don't think that's true. I think getting screwed is worse than making nothing and not doing the work. But here's where I would go with this. This is obviously an extreme example, but you can take this concept, I feel like, when you get deals that you don't like. If they're like, we'll give you $2,000, and I said, okay, but you have to give Aaron and I each a car for free. And you have to sponsor the podcast for a year if we're going to do this. Right. I would start to look at, as opposed to just taking a shitty deal and being like, blah, blah, no, it's terrible. I would try and restructure it in a way that made sense.
Yeah.
Where it might not be like a licensing fee in the sense we're talking about, but now there's tons of perks. I have a free car or something like that. Now there's value in that deal. And you can take this concept of restructuring and negotiating things. I mean, this is an extreme example. I've already said that, but just kind of canoodling things. I know that's not a word, to your liking in a way that makes sense. I think that's always better than just being like, terrible deal, walk away. Because, and is there a chance for us to continue to work together? Maybe it's just $2,000 now for an easy 15-second reel, but hey, I just bought a red camera, or I didn't actually. I'm just saying, we'd like to film a commercial for you in the future. And it's like, oh, well, we love you guys. We'd love to talk about that. Is there opportunity for future relationship building or work? Again, to your point, these are all questions to ask and consider, right?
Yeah, all questions. And I think be careful with promises of hey, if you take this low deal, there's going to be lots of work down the road. Be careful of those moves. I think also be legit in terms of who you are. If
Toyota, no.
Well, no. If Toyota asked us as a podcast to stand in front of it and just say this is TPM and we love this RAV4. We're huge fans.
We're using it for a retreat in Alaska. Yeah. They gave us 2 Toyota RAV4s.
If that's the case, you have to understand that no offense to us, but literally probably 1,000 to 100,000 other people could have executed that with
You
the
bite your
same
tongue.
demographics.
You
Well,
bite your tongue, sir.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So here's the thing. I've worked for some clothing brands in terms of being an affiliate. If I went to them and said, "Hey, I have a great idea for some photos for your clothing," they'd laugh me out the door because they'd say, "We have on our payroll, our affiliate payroll, which is basically like a percent of what people sell, 200 people giving us professional photos."
We have a
So
creative team in house.
yeah, and we have people that will do it for like, here's a jacket, now you have to post two things, for the fall season. And they just do it for free, or for that jacket, which that cost them maybe $20. So there's a army of people that are doing work for free that makes the job harder for everyone else. So that is part of the balancing game. And that's where licensing comes into play with like bigger and better companies that understand that that is part of the whole schema. Like that's part of the whole
Yeah.
environment, that they understand that. So it's like I said, I dance around it a bit. I've worked with some medium tier bigger companies
Those are the
where
ones you want, to be fair. Like, the ones who are kind of relatively around, I don't wanna say size of you, because I know people will equate that to Instagram followers. This has nothing to do with that. Maybe
Mhm.
more so around where you're at in your career, or your skill level, or your level of experience, expertise. You want to find companies that feel like that are healthy, making good revenue, have a good product, something you're interested in, something you can shoot or film well, that has a good budget, that isn't like a startup necessarily, that's, way in debt to fuel future growth. Or like the other thing people do is they go all the way to Patagonia. And it's like,
Mhm.
come on, let's find something that's realistic, something that's a good business that makes consistent revenue, that needs some good assets or better ones, and let's communicate with them of what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I agree. Lately, it kind of has been shaped by the types of jobs. It's not, hey, we need 10 photos of this Sony lens. Just very specific. It's not like that. It's more like, hey, we want you to capture our factory. Like, come on in for 2 to 3 days and just maybe you can get us like 100 photos for social and ads and things like that. So some of the jobs have been shaped in a way where it's very hard to be like, well, how am I gonna put a number on this? Because I don't know. I might
How
get a
do you
hundred.
license factory shots? Like, that's how do you monetize a factory shot too?
Yeah, or any business if they're using it to show like how cool their business is. How do I know they want 100 shots? I might get 60. I might get 300. I don't know that either. So what I've kind of went down to is like, what am I getting paid per hour? What am I
Yeah.
getting paid per hour?
When it's
And
all said and done.
what am I estimating that this is going to take me? And let me kind of do the math on if I got paid X, Y, and Z for an hour of work. I don't care what kind of hour it is, driving, thinking about it, storyboarding, having meetings,
Mhm.
shooting, editing, uploading, exporting, making files. I don't care what kind of work, any work that I'm doing for your company. I want an hourly wage that I'm very happy with at the end of the day. That I will not be like, well, that sucked because I just got ripped off.
And that
So,
number's gonna be different for everyone. I think for you and
yeah,
I, we're somewhere around like what, 150?
yeah. Well, and it depends. And
It
then you say, like,
depends.
hey,
That's why I said on average.
is this product going to be selling them a ton of stuff? So now I might say, oh, who knows? Maybe I say 300 an hour, but I'm taking out licensing. It's all baked in. But
Yeah.
now I just don't have to worry about like any of that stuff with them. I can just say, hey, anything I'm doing for you, anything I touch for you is $300 an hour. I'm happy as can be, and you're happy, and we know what we're dealing with. Here's my invoicing. Here's what I did. It's all very transparent.
I see
There's
what
a
you're saying.
there's a
So
big part of photography and that's kind of like a little bit like made up, right? Like, oh, I think this job's 10,000. I think the next job's 5,000. I think the next job's 1,000.
yeah,
Like, it kind of depends where we feel like, oh, you're going to make a lot more money off the same amount of work, so I deserve more, which we do. However, I think to the outsider or someone that doesn't know that, it just seems like you're just making up prices. You're taking advantage of us because we make a lot of money, but you're doing the same amount of work. So it's like you're fighting
but
that.
the ratio is constant then in terms of the size of the businesses you're working for.
It's kind of imagine a leaf cleanup that went house to house and then was like, well, what's your income? And you're like, all right, well, no matter what your income is, I want 1% to do your entire fall cleanup. So that's where it's like, well, you're doing the same amount of work, basically. You're cleaning up a yard. So for my house, you want this. For the really fancy house on the top of the street, the guy's a big time lawyer. You're getting $10,000 for leaf cleanup,
Maybe his yard is bigger.
maybe slightly, but it's kind of like it's just like, well, you make more, we want more. So I'm just saying like that seems to be apparent too. Like you just gotta be careful and dance and think and
Or I'm the
talk.
best damn leaf picker upper in the whole state of Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing: nobody has to agree to your price.
Right.
People
That's
can say no.
I think that's a
It's not
good
like you're not bringing a gun to somebody's head and being like,
no.
people
But
can say no.
here's another tip, and I heard this the other day from Chris Pieta, who was on our show, and I think this is a good one. Don't oh no, it wasn't. I sent it to you. I sent it to you. It was Adam Hermosi.
Well, Chris
Who's
will be stoked that you confused him with Alex
Adam
Hormozy.
Hermosi. Chris did have a great reel, and I commented on it. I was like, "This was really good stuff." It was like, "Look out for these red flags," and they were very nuanced with clients. So check out his profile. He often has some really good information in
Can you
real form.
paraphrase?
Some of it was like the ones that are like, we promise you extra work.
Mm.
Ones that say we could get this for less, or our other photographers did this for less. If they start bartering right off the bat, I don't remember the other ones, but I remember them being like nuanced and ones that I've run into a little bit. And I was like, oh, like this was a useful piece of information for people because it wasn't obvious. Anyway, Adam Hermosi said, and I sent it to you as we were
It's
negotiating.
Alex, isn't it? You keep saying
Alex,
Adam.
I'm sorry, Adam Capola. I'm thinking Alex Hermosi, Alex Hermosi, Alex Hermosi. Not giving him credit. I don't want to be copyright infringed, so I'm just saying Adam Hermosi. So no, he can't do anything about it.
Yes, he listens to the Photography Mindset podcast. He just sold a business for $100 million.
That'd be amazing,
right?
Don't come down on your prices. So think a lot ahead of time, and if they say no, you say okay, well, thank you. And I think the panic sort of like, oh well, okay, then I'll do it for less. It devalues you, and it really shows them like, oh, that was like an easy negotiation. You just say no, and this guy will completely fold.
Well, however, with the caveat of, because I just had a no, that's too expensive for what you're asking. So old me would have been like, shit, okay, that sucks. Now I gotta.
Well, what works for you?
On to the next one. Well, I think where people can make the mistake is they'll be like, I really want this job. Okay, I asked for 300 per video. Now I'm going to ask for 250. Right. And if I'm receiving that email, I'm like, well, how is it suddenly $50 cheaper? Were you just trying to rob me?
Yeah, exactly.
But so rather than do that, I like to go the route of, well, here's a more affordable, structured plan that offers different pieces of content or less pieces of content. Maybe this scaled across a longer time frame is more manageable for your budget. Being solution oriented, like you mentioned, I like to try and restructure things based on the feedback I get of, oh, that was too expensive. Okay, well, is this too expensive? Here's here's a little bit less work for this price spread out across this. Maybe this is more comfortable for you. Like, let's do something rather than nothing. I like that motto.
Yeah. I like
If I
that too.
really enjoy let's do something rather than nothing. Just because you didn't like my first idea or it was too expensive or whatever,
Mhm.
doesn't mean I go, oh, okay, next.
Yeah.
I would rather work together in some fashion, even if it's of half the scale I mentioned. Always. I would always rather do that.
We all know that we have a price that is our original concept of, let's just use $1,000 for 20 photos and 2 videos. And they go, it's thousands a bit steep for that. Again, there's things you can do. If you really want the $1,000, you can say like, all right, well, I'm already there. So I'm already doing video. I know I'm going to have extra video. Maybe I throw in an extra video and a few extra photos to edit and see if I can sweeten the deal with doing a little bit more work or develop some captions for them. What else can I do to get this payday, in a sense, in adding on? And or exactly like you said, like, let's spread it out over some time. Let's do, maybe there's less I can do, and do it for longer periods of time, those kinds of things. So
Mhm.
I think it is. I like that what you said. What'd you say? Let's do something rather than nothing.
Let's do something rather than nothing is a
Yeah,
great motto. And it prevents people from saying, oh, I got rejected. Okay, I guess that's done. Let's move on. No,
yeah,
silly, rubbish. Figure out a way to structure something that makes sense. And then I feel like you can get on that next reply, you'll get a good sense of whether they're just not feeling it or maybe they're like, oh, you know what? That actually works for us. And you're like, great. Let's continue to work together. Let's make something. Let's do something. Let's create something.
yeah. And I think with the work that you have done, everyone out there, at this point, try to figure out some sort of case study so you can show people what you are bringing to the table. Because, like I said, photographers and videographers, look around. Like, there is amazing work being done all the time.
Mhm.
You just you look on Instagram for 10 minutes and you're going to see professional grade video and script writing and talking points and models and photography. Like, the talent is out there. So I think you have to show what this does. And that could be as simple as, like, I worked with Telefunken. We all know that. I have to cough for a second. Hold on.
That was your
Sorry.
road mic
Yeah,
issuing hard karma.
that's right.
For you.
Um, but what just a simple sort of conclusion to our work together was just quick math. Looking at every post that they posted of my photos, adding up some key points, things that I could see, likes, how many times it was sent to other people,
Mhm.
and creating an average in terms of the photos that I took professionally versus their in-house. In-house. Now, nothing against their in-house photography. It was just more basic product photography.
Right.
But what they typically do at probably a 10-to-1 clip in terms of 10 of their photos, and then they would throw in one of my kind
Mhm.
of wild photos and showing them the statistics,
Yeah,
just
objective
like,
numbers.
yeah, like, hey, I thought that was a really uh, great relationship. I just want to share a few things. I think it worked out, and kind of, I, otherwise people just kind of like look through things or glance through things. I'm hoping, they thank me for the email, they thank me for the work. So they looked at that and they were like, oh, huh, cool.
Yeah, it's good
That was worth
practice to
it.
remind people of the success that you helped participate in, for
Yeah.
sure.
In a nice way without like rubbing
Yes.
it in or being, gloating. That was not the point. It was
Or
like,
without taking the credit, just like, "Thank you for the opportunity to work together. It seemed like your
it did
ideas and
really
our
well.
partnership went
Yeah.
really well. It's by these numbers."
Yeah.
It's always good to give good mindset principle for me is give other people the credit. Make
Yeah.
other people look good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. A good way to do it too.
I
Like, "Hey,
think
this
that
was a great
serves you
great
very
idea.
well.
I'm glad you asked me to help out.
Mhm.
I love the idea, blah, blah, blah." Glad we can execute together. Here's what happened.
Yeah. Thank you notes are so good too.
Yeah.
Just, hey, just with no motive, just thanks. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And then you have that work and you have that sort of case study for the next person that
Or for
wants
the
to
same
hire.
person,
Mhm.
as you're saying, right? Like, let's do this again. I'm going. I mean, your stuff with Telefunken was very wildlifey, outdoors, colorful stuff. Maybe you have another concept in the future for something that's similarly abstract. Like, hey, this did really well last time. What about this?
Yeah.
So, just rewinding a bit when you were mentioning, help me remember, you were kind of just you were saying here's all the photos, all the work, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to cost you this amount. You're thinking in your mind about the licensing fee and all this stuff, and you're just giving them one price that you're going to be satisfied with when you hand them over the deliverables and the licensing fee. Like, you're not overcomplicating it. You're just doing it all in your head.
Yeah. I might write some things down. I might.
Well, yes, but you're coming up with it kind of just all. You understand what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to help clarify for
Yeah.
people. I can't kind of find the words that you're pricing it all out, the licensing fee, your work, phone calls, all the stuff. You're taking an educated guess and you're giving them one bill for all of that that says, here you go. This is the cost of my time and the ability to use all these things forever. Here you go. Yes or no?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me,
Okay.
you keep talking. I'm going to see if I can find the exact verbiage that I just sent to a client that had a very similar situation, like what I'm talking about.
Okay. You want me to keep talking?
Nope. I found it already.
Oh, it was time for me to
No,
practice my
don't
stand
talk.
up.
Don't talk. Uh, okay. So here's a real life example.
Of what?
What-
Sorry.
Me working at a firm. So it's a business firm, financial firm, and they
Can we give
wanting,
the firm a fun name?
you can make it up.
Oh, this guy doesn't like to have fun. Sorry, guys. Show's
You
over.
No, you can have fun. I'm
No.
all business today.
Jeez.
Uh, cheesecake firm.
Okay.
Okay. So they want, thanks for meeting, blah, blah, blah. But what they want is team photos, post photos of team members and groups across various spaces in our office, including team photos, action shots of the team, photos of team members interacting, collaborating, meeting with clients, both stage and candid. Office environment details capture our workspace in ways that reflect its welcoming professional environment, focusing on brand details, logo signage, and functional spaces. And then our parking lot and office tour.
Okay. Can I
So,
ask questions as we go along?
sure.
Maybe you'll get to this. Are these going to be for mainly their website?
Yep. And social media.
Okay. And probably the
And
reason they're doing
potentially
this.
ads,
Okay.
but like small. It's not a national
And they're
company.
trying to give a personalized touch to Cheesecake Firm
Yes.
because we know
Mhm.
so many of those businesses just have stock and it looks crappy.
Mhm.
So they
Mhm.
want to obviously showcase that real people work there so that potential clients will see that, have a personal connection. They can potentially generate or manage more money
Mhm.
and make profit from fees. So that's how what your potential work, how that translates to an increase in revenue for them. I just wanted
Yes.
to make that obvious. Okay.
And that was the photo stuff. They asked for some video stuff, but that takes more conversation. So I'm not even going to go into that.
I just
Uh,
wanted to demonstrate that even though you could potentially, oh, he's just shooting office space, he's just shooting people there. I kind of wanted to draw a clear path of, in terms of a financial firm, how that definitely
oh, yeah.
generates income.
He could be getting huge clients from
Oh, real
certain
people work here. Yeah,
things.
okay. Here's
Yeah.
500 grand of mine.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, they care about their marketing. They care. Yeah, it just shows. It trickles down. Okay. So they were looking for about 100 photos, they said.
Okay. That's a lot.
Yeah. I said, so this is where I just pretty much spelled it out. I said, for the photography section, I'm estimating that I would need 1 to 3 full days in office to accomplish a large portfolio of photos for your usage. 2 days feels like what it would be, but I want to give a range just in case. I'm going to include unlimited licensing in my rate, which will help you keep costs down and feel comfortable that the assets are yours to use without a time limit and or restrictions. Marketing, social, website, company pamphlet, etc. And I have an asterisk about third-party usage, which we can talk about in a second.
So say some of those things again. It's unlimited
Yep.
for how long? Or
No time
unlimited
limit.
usage.
Mm-hmm.
So unlimited time frame. What's the usage? Website, socials.
Marketing, socials.
Can they sponsor?
Website, company pamphlet. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
With that, I said up to 3 days of what will I include? Up to 3 days of shooting, high resolution photography, 100 photos, editing, sample edits to start, and 1 round of re-edits as needed, unlimited licensing besides third-party use, delivered organized folders, and organized invoice with work time stamps. I gave a hourly wage and a price cap. So I said, I am comfortable because I don't know what this is all going to entail or how much you're going to need of what I can do. Or maybe I have 300 photos that are great. Do you want me to edit them all? In that case, I want to be protected. And I feel like the range is too variable where if you give a certain number for this job, you can get screwed because it could turn out to be way more than you bargained for, or they add more things to it. And or it could be way less and then they're hounding you for more stuff which you don't have. So where I felt comfortable was with that hourly price range and thinking of a cap where it felt like, hey, I did the quick math. If I did 3 full days, okay, and then I needed to edit those photos, and we're talking about like 100 photos of editing, it's office and people. I don't think I have to go super creative. So I kind of calculate that in and then get all the organization done. Okay, I have my number of how many hours that could be.
And now you're thinking about what they can potentially generate in revenue from these.
Yep.
And you're putting this all into one price.
Well, I'm doing it hourly with a price cap where I said, I'm not going to charge.
I'm not going to go above this.
Yeah. Just so you know, no matter if it takes me 3 days or 1 day, I'm not going to go above this price.
So what would your cap be? I'm going to guess. $18,000?
No, that's too high.
15 was my first thought.
Slightly lower.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm curious about this. So I did the math. I did 3 days, right? 8 hours is a full day.
Yeah, it wouldn't be 8, it's 6. I should have said that. I'm sorry.
Okay, 6. Well, I'll run you through my math originally. 8 hours at $150 an hour equals $1,200 times 3 days is $3,600. Doubled it for editing, file organization, talking to people, all that stuff. Gave me $7,200. And then I doubled that to $14,400, and then I rounded up to 15 in my head to account for money they'll generate from licensing and using your images. That was my guess originally.
Yep. It's not a bad guess.
So I would have guessed, I guess I was going to say 15, and then usually I come in lower than you. So I was like, oh, I'll say 18, but 15 was my initial one. What do you got, 12, 10?
Yeah. So my reasoning, I would give my reasoning for this job is I'm at a price cap of $7,000, which is much lower than what you said.
Yeah, whoa, what?
Here's my thinking. I think it's going to take me 2 days of shooting. That's what I think in my heart. I don't think it's going to be 3. I know editing's not going to take me a full day of that. if not half the time. So I think your math was a little generous in terms of editing time
I
and
was
putting.
baking in the phone calls, revisions, pre-pro. I don't
It
know.
could be more. So basically, what it came down to is $200 an hour, and at the end of the day, I'm okay with that. They're also talking about, we have to remember, a ton of video stuff: team introduction video, service highlights video, wealth advisor bio videos, culture highlight clips, parking lot office tours, drone video. So there is more work that they need. This is
And
the
that's in the
photography.
future, right?
Yep.
Oh
This is the
God. For a second I thought that was included as well.
no, 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 no. This is the photography section
Oh,
of it.
thank God. I gotta change
So
my pants. I pooped them.
I really wanted I really wanted to get in and do a good job
Yeah.
and secure the potential bulk, and I felt like I was happy with, hey, for a couple days work, if I'm leaving there with, 6 to 10 grand, I'm thrilled.
And that's
I'm
just
thrilled.
it. So you're satisfied with it. I
Yep.
think and to go back to the start of our conversation, I said the goal is that you're satisfied with it when all is said and done for the work you've done and how it's being used.
Yeah,
Yes,
no matter what happens,
I
right?
still stand by that. The only thing caveat to that is that when I was first starting out, I was satisfied with making $300. Like I was like, whoa.
Or getting a
And now I look
jacket
back and I'm
or
like,
free socks.
or,
I got free
or
socks when I was psyched.
free socks, free jacket. And I was like, I'm satisfied with that. That's cool because I didn't understand the worth. And
Right.
so I think what we're trying to do with this conversation is get people to understand the worth, get that concept, understand that, now be satisfied with the new molted version of your brain. Right. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in there because being satisfied can be, oh my God, they sent me free stuff. Like, sweet.
Yeah.
And that might be
Yeah.
fine too. Like maybe you're somebody who has a full-time job doing other things and you have no care in the world about, making revenue off of this with your camera. And you're like, oh, thanks for the free
Yeah,
jacket.
I'll take some
And
pictures.
there's nothing, there's nothing you do. I have no right to tell you how to live or what's right or wrong or any of that stuff. Just know if you're listening to this, that you're potentially hurting people potentially by lowering the bar a bit. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is. It's an unfortunate thing, and it creates some fights for the people that are trying to do it professionally. But there's, as you always say, there's tons and tons of clients, and if the one that doesn't understand it, you're in conversations with or going back and forth, and they're just not getting it. Just move on, cut your losses, and move on. And or figure it out, and be happy with whatever it is.
Yeah.
If you can finish a job and be like, wow, I got paid a good amount of money to do that for a couple of days, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, no doubt.
Then it's great.
No doubt. No doubt. Should we wrap up?
Yes.
Okay, we're wrapping up. Thanks for listening to our our episode about licensing. And Aaron and I are still fairly new to this, but we've had the privilege of talking to people like Adam Capola on the show, who you should go back and search for that. I think it's in 2022 range of episodes, maybe in February or April of that year. I think my brain that's what it's guessing.
You could probably just
that
search his name.
Pardon me?
You could probably just search his name.
I know
on
his last name's just hard to spell. Adam Capola with a C. Sound it out. It'll probably come up. And you can listen deep dive for an hour about someone who's been doing this for a lot longer than we have, with like 6-figure contracts. I know most of us listening aren't dealing with that, but he offers a lot of great advice for.
Yeah, that episode was eye-opening for both of us.
Eye-opening for both of us.
Like, whoa, you charge for the phone calls and the this and the that? He's like, yeah, I'm working for them.
So go back and listen to that, because it changed Aaron and I's world. If you're somebody who's interested in how to properly, generating money with your camera and doing it properly in a professional way that makes you compensated fairly beyond just your time. So go listen to that.
Yeah. I want to add one more tip that we didn't discuss, just one more thought. If you get into licensing and you're doing it by time frame, you have to realize that now you have to somewhat police it as well.
Keep track. It's keep track.
That's
Yep.
another job and another thing to think about and another thing to keep track of and another thing to then have conversations or tough conversations. So if you're saying 1 year, you have to like timestamp it and keep your eye out. You know, it's
No doubt.
an extra part of the job. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And if you want help looking over a licensing agreement, or I mean, we're not lawyers, but if you want just some advice on how to properly price something out or how to go about licensing something with a company you're working with, book one of those free
Yeah.
30-minute consults.
Yeah.
We may not have all the answers, but we might offer a new perspective and get
Heck,
you thinking
they're
a different
free.
way. For free entirely your first time. And we're not emotionally attached to the situation, which is always so helpful. Like when I'm emotionally attached to a client or something I really want, Aaron is not. He can just give me objective opinions, which is great. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Go subscribe on YouTube, rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's a great cost-free, effective way to support the show. And it'd be a nice little Christmas gift for us, or
Oh, a little
Hanukkah, or
gift.
whatever you celebrate.
Yeah.
So give us a little
Wrap it
thumbs
in a
up.
bow. Put it in the
Fill our
stocking.
stocking. Fill our
Yeah.
stocking. That's it. Give us a little thumbs up.
Yeah.
And with that, that's all we got for tonight. We'll see you next time.
Take care.